everyone. Welcome to Lakeview TV. My name is David Vandercar. I'm the executive director here at Lakeview Ministries. And this is a new segment that we're starting to give you the opportunity to spend some time with me, the executive director. I'll be able to give you weekly updates on what is happening around camp and just share some things that are on my mind and be able to share some things that I think you might be interested in about camp. So today I'm really excited because it is springtime. You can see we've got the Bradford pears are blooming and we have horses in the pasture now. You can see them out there. Pretty exciting. They came this past weekend, and it's neat to see them on camp. Give us some excitement about camp coming, and we hope that is still the case this year. Obviously, you know, with everything going on with the pandemic, we are still working all those details out, and so one of the things that I want to do and hope to do with this interaction is, really be really involved in the comment section. And so if you guys have any questions or things that you would like to know, feel free to comment them and ask me. And then I will also be asking you some questions that I'd love your feedback on. Some of them will just be trivia questions about camp, but other things will be, information that we'd like to have some feedback on about things that are happening at camp. So the first thing is if I'm trying to come up with a cool name for this segment on Lakeview TV. So if you have any ideas on what we could name this segment, Time with the Executive Director, share those in the comment section and we will see what we decide to name this segment. So the first thing I want to do is kind of share with you a building here on camp. So this is our main dining hall here at Camp Lakeview. Funny thing is, this building is the same age as my involvement here at camp. So this building opened up in 1999, and I started my history here at camp in 1999 as well. As at that time, it was they called it the Tour Boy program, Tour Boys and Tour Girls, and it was kind of the precursor to what we call the junior staff program now. And you can see here, this building is the Carl and Charlotte Keel Memorial Dining Hall. The Keel family has been real integral in the history of camp. Carl was one of the original board members, the founding members of the camp, and then his son Marshall, I believe he was on the board for many years, but I believe he also helped to form the Camp Lakeview Foundation. So Marshall, you have to correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he was real involved in that organization as well over the years. So as we step in here, you can see it's kind of empty right now as we have it all torn down. And one of the things that we have done as we look at this pandemic and we prepare for what might be in the future, and not having any groups here at camp, we have really came and shut down all the buildings. So the HVAC units, turn them off if we can, or turn them down all the way. Shut down all the water heaters, all the refrigerators, the ice makers, all that stuff, just to try and save as much energy as we can. And then the other thing we've been doing as a staff is to just working on projects like this. Lakeview TV we've rolled out. We've been trying to contact all of our donors and camper families just to share our thoughts with them, ask if they have any prayer requests, to just stay involved and keep everybody up to date about what's happening here at camp. So as we're in the dining hall here, I want to point out another famous Keel here at camp, Dan Keel. Many of you might know him. We kind of call him our resident volunteer. Dan has spent many years here at camp. Every Friday he comes out and volunteers with our maintenance staff. And back when I was a site manager and worked maintenance, I got a lot of time opportunities to work side by side with him, and he's been such a blessing here at camp. Like I said, he hasn't really missed a Friday coming out here and volunteering, and that goes all the way back to the late 90s. So pretty awesome. And so we have a Dan Keel Volunteer Service Award that has a lot of different people that have been integral over the years in keeping camp successful and just keeping this ministry going. So this building, again, was opened up in 1999, and that was the start of kind of our year-round ministry. Before that, we had really kind of served more as just a summer camp, but through the Pathways of Promise campaign, we started to change the facilities to be able to be used year-round, and so that is, here we go, we got somebody driving by and through camp. Take a walk through the cabin area here with you. But yeah, in the late 90s and early 2000s is when we kind of started to build facilities that could be used and utilized all throughout the year. So that was when in 99 we opened up the dining hall here, and then in 2001 we opened up the Quapaw Mohegan lodges. And that was kind of the facilities that were first able to be used throughout the entire year. And so here we go. Got Ottawa cabin here. Couple questions for you guys, you history buffs. What do you think are the I think there were 5 cabins that were the original cabins at camp. So 5 cabins, the first 5 cabins. Give us your answers in the comment section. We'll see who knows their camp history there. And then Ottawa and Wyandotte. Wyandotte, of course, is at the end of the cabin area there. Those are 2 popular cabins for kids to request, mainly because they have the porches on them, the big porches off the front of those cabins. The cabins are set up a little bit differently, have a couple little rooms inside them. You guys know why those cabins are different from all the other ones? Again, comment, fill us in on what you understand of the history of camp. So, all right. If you guys have been around camp for a long time, you know that the chapel building before the dining hall was opened was where camp utilized it for their dining hall. So you can see here, this is kind of the old road path right here, went through and met up right with where the road coming out of the chapel parking lot is. Of course, you got Lutheran Lake there and all the houses around the lake. Some people get confused about the Lutheran Resort Association and camp and how they're tied together. We are two separate entities. Legally, we operate as 2 separate organizations, but we are tied together quite a bit. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But here's the chapel. A lot of history in this building. I'll give you a little tour here before I sit down. It's the kitchen back here. Can you imagine what it would be like to work in this kitchen and serve? I think at that time when they were serving out of this building, they probably had around 80 campers or so. They were serving out of this kitchen. So let me know if you were on the kitchen staff, if you worked in that kitchen, what it was like. I believe at that time this building wasn't air conditioned as well, so I'm sure you've got some good stories there, so please share those with us. Come back here to the restrooms and the single shower stall that was on each side of the building here. So had 1 shower for guys and 1 for girls for the entire camp. This, of course, was in the very early days. The camp's bathhouse, I believe, was built back in the late 80s, early 70s. So they went through a few years where they used this building as the bathhouse as well. So, all right. So a few things I want to share with you guys here, kind of some neat information. I dug through some of our records historically here. The first thing, this is brochure that was put out, the original brochure, to market the Lutheran Resort Association and the creation of it. And so, yeah, it's kind of neat, the information that's contained in here. This again is what they gave to people to try and get them to buy into the association, into the project. So this, I'm not sure if there's a date on this one. I think there's a date on this one. This is a worship service marking the beginning of Camp Lakeview on the 10th anniversary of the Lutheran Resort Association. So that was July 7th of 1963. So this would have been the early 50s here. And it's kind of neat. It says, let's see, it was 264 acres. And it says that land has been purchased and paid for in full at a cost of $7,000. So 264 acres for $7,000. And then they talked about how can you join? $500 paid to any of the officers will make you a member and entitle you to a plot of ground with lakeshore. So kind of neat. Those are the original officers of the Lutheran Resort Association. Let me know, is that any of your relatives? All right, and then we get into the Camp Lakeview, the beginning of Camp Lakeview, and this is again talking about the difference in Lutheran Lake and Lakeview Ministries. Lutheran Lake, the members of Lutheran Lake is who ultimately started Camp Lakeview. You can see here kind of on the history, it says, well, this building, the chapel, was dedicated in May of 1960. And then the board of directors of the lake appointed a camp planning committee. And originally that started out as, they were just going to offer a couple summer camp sessions, but then it got turned into this resolution by the Lake Resort Association to organize camp on a permanent basis. And so that's when the association started to, separate from each other as entities and be formed separately. So Camp Lakeview itself, so that was in July 7th of 1963, and officially camp became an organization in December of that year. And then in the summer of 1964, they used that time to build the cabins and everything. And one of the neat things that a lot of people may not realize is the original plans for the camp were to be contained entirely on the hillside in between the chapel and the lake. So you can see here, this was the original site plan for Camp Lakeview, and A right here is the chapel building, and G down here is where the waterfront building is, and then this is where all the cabins would be, and worship center and activity fields, and so that was going to be the original site of camp. And before they broke ground on that, they were able to, it came available, the 120 acre parcel that is actually Camp Lakeview now, that property became available, and they were able to decided to purchase it because they thought it would provide for greater opportunity for expansion in the future. And so camp changed to build all their plans then over on that property there. So one of the things I wanted to just kind of finish sharing with you guys is this brochure here. It says it's the dedication of campgrounds and cabins on Sunday, July 19th of 1964. So this is when all the cabins were built, and they were dedicating it to be used in the summer of 1965. And I just want to read through this rite of dedication. And so it says, it is altogether fitting that we should gather here this evening to observe with gratitude and renewed consecration the dedication of this campground and these cabins, for the men and women of vision who by their dreams and sacrifices have made this day of joy possible. Oh, shoot the rose window up there while I finish reading this. For all the present members of the South Central Lutheran Camp Association who have thought and planned and given of themselves to this worthy project, For all those who have invested of their substance with generosity and cheerfulness, we express our heartfelt thanks, and for the more perfect service which can now be rendered to youth and to all ages through the use of these grounds and buildings. And from these thoughts of gratitude, we are led into thoughts of renewed dedication to use these grounds and buildings well, to the prospect of increasing in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man through the use of God's holy word. To provide Christian recreation, inspiration, and fellowship so that all who participate in the activities of this camp may grow in faith toward God and in love for one another. For the strengthening of individual members in the body of Christ and for increased service in their own congregations and throughout the world. For the days that lie ahead when many persons yet unborn will use these grounds and buildings to the end that they may find joy and growth in their calling in Christ's kingdom. We, a grateful people, dedicate ourselves in these grounds and buildings of Camp Lakeview to the glory of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Oh, all right. A few thoughts I have on that as I read through those words. It's just amazing to think about what has happened over the years here at camp, and to think that the mission that camp had and was started with, it says right here, to provide Christian recreation, inspiration, and fellowship so that all who participate in the activities of this camp may grow in faith toward God and in love for one another. That's virtually the same mission statement that we currently work under. And it's neat to see that mission has lasted all these years. I kind of get a little choked up when I read that last paragraph where it says, to the days that lie ahead, when many persons yet unborn will use these grounds and buildings to the end that they may find joy and growth in their calling in Christ's kingdom. To the days that lie ahead, when many persons yet unborn. I think of my own kids coming to camp. They were those persons yet unborn that the people back in the early 60s we're speaking of here. And it's such a joy to be able to share this ministry with my children. When we think now about the days that lie ahead, there's a lot of unknown there. There's a lot of things that we don't yet know about what is going to happen, with this current situation with the pandemic and what this summer season holds. But we know that God will continue to provide for this ministry, and that persons yet unborn right now will be coming to camp to enjoy what God has built here and to be able to serve Him, to be able to come here and receive those opportunities of growth, inspiration, and recreation that we strive to provide. So neat to think about what God has done over the years here and all the people that this place has impacted. And I'm excited to continue to share with you over the next few weeks and months, other parts of history of camp, and give you updates on what we are doing to continue to serve you guys and continue to be a resource for you during this time. So again, if you haven't read our statements on our website, go out to lakeviewministries.camp. There's more information about the COVID-19 and how we're responding as a camp. Our next big date is May 1st. That's when we're planning on kind of issuing our plan of action for the summer season. Hopefully by that time we'll have a lot clearer information about what we need to do as an organization, have guidance from our health professionals, from the health departments and CDC, and be able to make informed decision about what we'll be able to do or not do as an organization to serve you. But one thing I know, we will always be here to serve you. And if there's specific ways or ideas that you have of ways that we can partner with you and your family during this time, please let me know in the comments. So again, thank you so much for just partnering with us, for joining us along this path, and we look forward to walking with you.